from top... Man, have you been to Cannadays yet? Cannadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Cannadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Cannadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Cannadays. Have your say without saying a word. Cannadays.ca.
What are you doing? Nothing. Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
It's easy feelings long to keep. They get by a minute into force. Oh, I didn't notice it's all getting full. But only when got me back, chest, riding got me.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis and Coffee with me, Tamariuana. It's a gorgeous day in the interior of British Columbia this morning, and we have Chris Bennett with us this morning. Chris has been around for the movement for many, many years. I'd probably say almost a decade and a half. He owns the Urban Shaman that's located inside the CC headquarters in downtown Vancouver. I'd like to welcome Chris this morning. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, I'm doing good, and not to make myself sound too old, but over a quarter century, actually, I've been involved in cannabis.
Wow, that is a long time.
Since about 1990.
Wow, and what got you going? Like, what was your first, I got to do this? Like, what was your first?
I think it was when I found out about industrial hemp. At that time, I was living out near Tofino on the West Coast, and there was a big controversy about the logging of the last old-growth rainforest in Clackwood Sound. And I found out about hemp for paper, and the real issue then was like jobs versus the environment, and half the trees we cut down go to paper, and 1 acre of hemp will produce as much paper as 4 acres of trees over the same 20-year period. And so it seemed like an obvious solution to the crisis of jobs versus the environment. And so I started pushing for industrial hemp as a solution to the overlogging that was taking place, and then all the other wonderful benefits of the hemp plant.
Absolutely, and never mind the portions of medicine that goes along with it. Now, you've done a lot of research over the years, too, spreading back to centuries because of the cannabis plant and the usage of cannabis. You've done extensive research and spoken in many areas on this. So where do you find yourself now, like, with all your research and stuff? Like, do you just feel like an encyclopedia?
Yeah, I've written about 3 books on the history of cannabis, and mostly looked at its role in ancient magic and religion and things like that. And it's a fascinating history. You know, there's like no other plant that we can document a history of use with humanity like we can with cannabis. Right now, the oldest evidence for using hemp fiber is believed to go back as far as 25,000 years. Through the evidence of tools used in processing hemp fibers. And there's even evidence of like hemp fiber cloth from 12,000 years ago existing still. So we've had a very long relationship with this plant. And as far as smoking it or inhaling it, that's been taking place for at least 5,500 years. We know in the Ukraine region, they have found polypod bowls that showed evidence of cannabis being burnt in there. And the fumes from that were inhaled in the cave that trapped the smoke. So we have such a huge history. It's so, plants in general are a natural right. It's like our right to air and water, and it's life on Earth. You know what I mean? And when we're talking about a plant like cannabis, we're talking about a plant that humanity has been with for tens of thousands of years, and that it's illegal in our own lifetimes is ludicrous.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing we're finding, that, even over, like, before Prohibition, right? It was used in medicine. There's, bottles found showing,
Oh, yeah. I put together a museum collection a few years back, and it really brought to life this whole history of pre-Prohibition cannabis medicine, because it's not like one or two medicine bottles out there. There are just scores of cannabis medicine bottles out there. In fact, the most popular cough medicine before Prohibition was this remedy called Piso's Cure that contained cannabis indica. And they actually invented matchbook advertising. They were so popular. It was in, virtually all corn and bunion plasters. Remove corns and bunions off your toes. 90% of those contain cannabis indica. And then it was in remedies for women's problems, for hysteria, just for countless ailments. All the stuff we're talking about today, people were using about it pre-Prohibition. And then when we go back to the ancient world, it's in the oldest medical texts that we know of, in ancient Assyrian cuneiform tablets. There's varieties of recipes for cannabis, from insomnia to epilepsy, and Egyptian papyri, countless remedies containing cannabis. And the Ayurvedic tradition, and then in China, the Pen Tasao, thought by some to be as old as 2,700 years before Christ. So, a 4,800-year-old text. And it's got numbers of cannabis remedies in it.
Absolutely. And never mind the fact that, it was being used in children's products as well. Oh, and now finding, that,
a major thing for childbirth even, They found mummified remains of a woman in Bet Shemesh in Israel, and she died during childbirth from complications, but they had been using cannabis both topically on her abdomen and also burning it inside the area where she was. So, cannabis is a major player with human medicine. Probably the original medicine.
Absolutely. And, you find that almost like wondering, I do, I shake my head wondering, okay, we've had all this pre-Prohibition. We have medical doctors that we know can find the information if they want to, and they just don't bother. Because Western conventional medicine has taken over so much that they really don't look into the natural remedies that plants have to offer us, along with many other things that you offer too at your urban shaman there, like with kratom and peyote and other, essential plant matter that has been beneficial for health for many centuries.
Yeah, well, I really believe plants are natural right. I don't believe in prohibition, but it's hard for me to want to get out there and fight for methamphetamine or crack cocaine. But I can get behind any plant. I can get behind the coca plant. I can get behind the poppy. I can get behind cannabis. Any plant there is, I can get behind it and feel really comfortable doing that, because I really believe it's a natural right, and they're violating that by prohibiting a plant.
I agree. And I know there's a lot of people that do believe that, drugs in all small forms should be legalized and regulated. And I think I stand with that too. But like I said, it's hard when it comes to the chemical side of things. Heroin's derived by a poppy. Cocaine is derived from the coca leaf. But methamphetamine, yeah, but exactly. But, methamphetamine is made up of what?
It's made out of ephedra, so it comes from a plant as well, ephedrine, a very useful plant. You know what I mean? And in natural form, it's got all sorts of medicinal benefits. Same with the coca plant, but there's no denying that crack cocaine or cocaine can be very harmful. But, you go to Bolivia and Peru and places like that, there's coca tea and all sorts of coca food products and things like that. And there actually aren't the problems that we have, like, say, on the Lower East Side with crack cocaine and things like that. So it's, in their natural form, they're very beneficial. It's kind of like sugar. You can chew on sugar cane all day and not really wreck your teeth. But, you start getting into sugar and it's just going to destroy your teeth in no time.
Right. The refining of everything, I guess, is how we, you look at it when they're actually playing with it. But then again, when we refine cannabis, it's a totally different thing, right? Because refining cannabis into extraction makes the medicine even better. but less harm. Like, I wouldn't say less harmful, but the harm is not there too, right? You know,
I don't know. Like, it's like I like smoking some hash and stuff like that, but I'm not convinced that these butane extracts are better medicine.
Yeah, I agree with the butane portion of that for sure.
I'm not coming down on anybody or anything like that, but I don't know. Like, is doing dab is going to benefit you as much as taking some ingested cannabis medically? I don't think so. I think a lot of the real medical qualities of cannabis are best absorbed ingested. Right. I think that's the big difference between something like, say, Rick Simpson oil, which is still a extracted oil, and people doing dabs. I don't think people are going to be curing themselves of cancer and things like that with dabs. But the ingested cannabis kind of gets into your system in a different way.
Right. And of course, using butane as an extraction probably, I hear the word zine and it kind of freaks me out. Like, yeah, that's just my personal opinion, but I hear that, I just think, zine sounds like methamphetamine, so I think, well, how good can that be if it's got that zine chemical product? And I've seen
how the idea is out there is by adding something to cannabis, you make it more pure.
Well, yeah, I guess by extracting, but again with the edibles, when you're using say a lactose butter, like just a regular old butter, and you're extracting into that, or coconut oil, right? Yep. Those are pretty healthy infusions that you can then use to eat with. And I find that using an Everclear, rather than an isopropanol, seems to be, that's food grade, would be a little less intrusive for for the body than, say, isopropanol, even though it's an alcohol base and it still evaporates off or gets cooked off. I just find that something that's food grade, sounds a little more appealing than something that, makes you go blind. Even though Everclear can be, very, you don't want to drink too much of that either, right? But, it's just the invasiveness of, what we're putting into our bodies. And I think a lot of medical patients are, let's face it, there's two different types of cannabis consumers, and then not trying to, like I said, distributor put a division in there, but the rec user don't really realize they're using it for medicinal, a lot of them, and thus that use it for medicinal purposes, a lot of us are using it for specific purposes and finding strain specifics to actually help us with those afflictions, right? And how many strains have come out with these hybrids now? Like, we used to have a couple, Northern Lights 1 and a Skunk 2, I'm going back 20-30 years ago. Now there's thousands of breeds that have come out with the geneticists and the crossbreeding. It's just amazing how many different strains can come out of two plants.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, take a look at dogs, you know what I mean? All that hybridizing. It's fascinating, and hats off to the illegal marijuana industry for starting to figure out without the benefit of scientists and medical help, starting to find out which strains are specific for certain ailments and all that. All that's happened underground. Despite efforts of the government to stop it from happening. And so hats off to the already existing marijuana industry. And on that note, let's keep that already existing marijuana industry alive.
Right. I totally agree on that.
Legalization, you know what I mean? Because that's what's happening here in Canada. There's a concerted effort. There was raids yesterday in Ontario and Vancouver Island on dispensaries that have been accepted in their communities. Federal government raids that are set to destroy these dispensaries and pave the way for federal corporations, many of them who have liberal money invested in it, if not liberal members working at them. And it's baloney, This is an industry we've created. I'm not saying that there's not room for corporations. I think that there's room from everybody from personal home growers, craft cannabis, local dispensaries to big licensed producers. But let's make room for everybody that has built this industry and created it.
Absolutely. And that's the worst part about it with these raids and stuff. There was 20 raids 2 weeks ago with Mark and Jody, which unfortunately has made them so that they can't even own their own businesses anymore. And that's quite disturbing, because if they can do that to Mark and Jody, what can they do to the rest of us? Mark and Jody have been pretty out there. They're very loud advocates for legalization, have been for 2 decades. Mark's been at this for years, right? Jody's been at this for years. For them to hit them, like the day that happened, like I cried, honestly, like not because I'm huge Emery followers anymore. That's really not the case. The case is like I'm just watching our culture be broken down. Like, and basically
I'll be surprised if Mark isn't watching legalization take place in a country for the first time, for the second time. Just as he was taken down, like that was the thing when, I was there through all Mark Emery's raid and stuff in 2005. I was working for Mark back then, running Pot TV. And, we were fighting for legalization. We were really pushing the limits. But we didn't realize that the road to legalization in Canada ended up in the White House in the United States of America. And that's what we found out, is that as we got close, the United States just started to take a real direct interest in our activities and began spying on us Canadian citizens, myself included. I was spied on, even though I didn't sell any seeds, just because I worked for Mark Emery, was running Pot TV. I was spied on by the United States Drug Enforcement Agency. They were looking into my personal life. They knew all sorts of stuff about me. And it was a real violation. And so we didn't realize that by pushing the limits here in our own country that we were going to have to deal with the United States. And so they took him down there. And what happened when they took him down there? All the seeds he'd sent down there sprouted. And they grew into an industry. And while Mark was down there from jail, he witnessed that become legal marijuana. You know what I mean?
Isn't that ridiculous that he actually sat and watched legalization in the state that actually brought him down there?
Yeah. And then he comes back to Canada, and now he's going to be in the same situation here. I'll be surprised if that's not the case, if he's not in jail. The Liberals give out their form of corporate legalization. That is what I'm expecting. Although I wouldn't.
Let's hope his lawyer is not going to keep. Let's hope the lawyers keep them out of jail.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is all a carrot and stick show by the Liberals, to tell you the truth, and that they stall. They do all these reports, and they go, okay, we're just about ready to legalize, but there's an election coming, so we're going to have to put it off till next election. And they try to run the whole gambit of legalization as an election issue again. And win a second term with that.
Yeah, I agree. I was at the Liberal Convention in 2014 when, we were talking about legalization and speaking about the policies and stuff at that point. And boy, have they twisted our message. We did not tell them to, save the children. That was not the message that we gave them. It was like, keep it off the streets. We want to get it under wraps, meaning we want it in storefronts, meaning that we want it behind closed doors, like not the same liquor model, but, putting an age restriction to a point on it. But they totally took everything and twisted it into save the children. We got to save the children. And that's not the message that we gave them. And that's unfortunate that that's the way they've twisted it.
Not only twisted, he basically lied. He came out in favor of defensive dispensaries. You know what I mean?
He did. We've got proof of that. He was, when Saskatoon got raided, he was on the campaign trail, and he said, "I believe dispensaries, and this shouldn't be happening, and this person shouldn't have been busted." And then, not even 2 years later, he's putting orders out to have everybody busted. That is hypocrisy on all levels. I don't even have words for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I believe just as March 2005 raid came from the White House, that this recent rash of raids on cannabis culture was a direct result of comments from the Prime Minister's office. And he was out here a week before the raids took place saying all the licensed dispensaries in Victoria and Vancouver were illegal. Even the licensed ones. So
I know.
It seems pretty clear that this is a direct result of the Prime Minister's office's concerns.
Well, the worst part about it, too, is in fact that Victoria Municipality and Vancouver Municipality have gone to regulate, right? Yeah. They've taken it upon themselves as a municipal government to say, okay, well, this is what we're dealing with. Let's work with this. So the municipalities then again have taken hours and done research to go ahead and do these regulations. And the feds are just saying, too bad. We don't care. We're just going to come in and shut you down anyway.
Going after the municipalities. They're just going after the dispensaries. The municipalities have okayed.
And that's not right. They want to take legalization. And I mean, this is what, they're kind of forefrontally say, we're going to kick it back to the provinces. It's going to get kicked back to the municipalities for regulation as far as bylaws go. So when the municipalities then take it upon themselves to be proactive to do this, they turn around and just say, well, we don't care. We don't care the hours that your people have put in, you know, and wasted time. And we're just going to go and turn around and do this anyways, after they've shown that these dispensaries are not harmful. They're beneficial to the patients. They're beneficial to the community. Like Tamarack Dispensaries out here in Kimberley, she's got Entrepreneurial Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneur of the Year award, because the benefits for that small community with that dispensary being there have been beneficial. They've gotten money towards a splash park. They've put money towards other community events. They give back to the community, which I believe most of the dispensaries in our communities do. And they don't seem to be having any issues. And I'm hoping that they've opened a third one up there. They won't allow me to run one here yet, but they've got a third one up there now, that this is going to open the doors for the East Kootenay as well. Because here I am sitting in Columbus, the biggest city in this part of the province, and there's not a dispensary here. But there's one in Nelson, which is 2 hours away. There's 8 actually in Nelson. And then there's 3 in Kimberley, which is 35 kilometers away from me as well. So that's just showing how the municipalities are taking a different angle on this.
Yeah.
And where is that going to leave those businesses that have been allowed to run within their municipalities legally? In the end of this, if they shut them all down, those are a bunch of small business owners that are going to be out a lot of money, employees without jobs, growers without places to take their wares, and it's a fucking mess. Like, quite frankly, that's how I see it, as a fucking mess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, hopefully we start to see some clarity here in the next year.
Well, murmurings were. I was at the town hall on last Monday. The NDP had a town hall here. It was just a radio conference, and it was murmured then that the legislation should be out by June. So before they go to the summer sitting, right? So how beneficial is that going to be for us? Either if they're going to put legislation out in June, and then they go to summer holidays. So then we have to wait again until September until they come back. Absolutely. Okay.
Well, a lot of the actual legislation will be produced by the provincial parties. And here in British Columbia, which is got to be the biggest hotspot for this type of stuff, we haven't even heard any sort of murmuring from the Liberals or the NDP or any of the provincial parties.
I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about that, because I have spoken to the NDP about that. So we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to listen to Strong Life by Hornsby Bronx, and I'd like to thank my sponsors, who are 12 High Chicks Magazine, Remo's Nutrients, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society, MUM, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, and Haley Rose Foundation. We'll be right back.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process, and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
I don't know
Babylon make you suffer. Babylon make you suffer. Babylon make you suffer. What is desire? Young life. We are ready to fight. Hard life for my people. I don't know why my people live this life. I don't know why my people live this life. I don't know how to fight. 'Cause my people suffer. What do you want, Babylon? I don't understand why this world is so strange, strange with my people. I don't know how to fight, but if we are together, it will work. It will work. Babylon no have no heart. 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 My people, you have to survive. Yeah, you must rebuild you and make your own way. You must not give up. The beginning of the revolt will start. We need to follow our true destiny. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know why my people live this life. I don't know why my people live this life. The obstacle we face, yeah, is Babylon. The world is a good place, yeah, for our freedom. You take everything, you don't breathe anything, yeah, yeah. Young life, all anti-dread. We must believe in a magical, powerful world.
We are back with Chris Bennett. We were talking about a little bit of political before with the new or with a provincial election coming up here in BC, and how we're not really seeing much of anything going on in the province, and it's a huge federal election, and we know that the BC Liberals have been not so great over the last 4 years, and the NDP have really got nobody coming out of the gate, or so we feel. Now, I've met with both my NDP and BC Liberal incumbents in recent last couple weeks, and I would say the NDP are far more pot friendly, cannabis friendly, just for the simple fact that the guy that's running for us out here, his name's Randall McNair, and we had quite the conversation about cannabis. He's a former mayor of Fernie, BC, actually, and his wife's a doctor. So we were talking a lot about the medical benefits of cannabis and how his wife has actually been looking into doing and kind of doing some research with that. Never mind the fact that he feels that this part of the province too, especially the West Kootenays, East Kootenays, the industry out here is, based around cannabis. There's not a lot of jobs out this way. So for them to not be talking about cannabis as a platform is kind of, disheartening.
Yeah, I don't even think either party has offered any sort of a platform on regards to what kind of regulations they envision for the province. And and it's going to be a major thing. It's like sloppy for them to not to have something to present.
Right, and this town hall that I was in last week was actually our MP Wayne Stetsky's town hall, which he's our federal MP, and he's an NDP as well. And first out of the gate, he brought up the whole point of decriminalization, which we all agree should have been done right from the get-go. But I found it really disheartening that the mayor of Nelson, we had the only two real comments that came on about anti was the smell. And she encouraged these people to phone the police if they smelled cannabis. And I was thinking to myself, you're the mayor of Nelson. Nelson pretty much smells like cannabis like all the time. How can you be, encouraging people to phone the police? And then I was very pleased to hear Wayne Stetsky pipe in, and he says, but you have to remember the charter rights of medical patients. And if you smell somebody out smoking a joint, they might possibly have PTSD or anxiety and might need that instant medical relief. So you can't, and he came back in behind the mayor and said that. So I'm not a big fan of Wayne's either. He used to be the mayor of Cranbrook. But I was really pleased with what his reaction was. Like, whoa, you can't just phone the police. There's medical people out there. And so that made me feel a little better when it comes to dealing with him, to have a meeting with him next week as well. So in this area, I know that our municipal governments and our, NDP MP sees the industry that would be lost out in this area and how many people would be without employment. So I hope they come out with something soon.
Yeah, well, hopefully that translates from the MPs into the actual party and legislation in the party and policies and that type of stuff, because I just haven't seen any of that yet from either of them.
Well, the NDP is also doing, like same as Conservative federally, are doing a leadership race, right? So you have to wonder where their heads are all at when it comes to policy, when it comes to federal, where they're just worrying about what's going on inside their own parties, right? So I don't think the actual interest or the actual time and boots on the ground are there for any of this right now when they're all, trying to find a leader for their parties, right? Yeah.
We need more actual advocates to get in these parties and infiltrate them and get to the MP level is what we need, you know what I mean? There's no point in doing things at this point in the game and doing things like the marijuana party and stuff like that. You're best off to put your political efforts into joining a party like the NDP or the Liberals or even the Conservatives, if you're leaning that way, and trying to change those parties' policies and adapt them into the legalization world.
Well, after that Liberal convention in 2014, that was my aspiration. Quite frankly, I was going to run as an MP in the area that I was in at that point in time. I was in the Crowfoot riding in central Alberta. And after I went to that convention, I was a little disheartened and didn't want to be in politics anymore. I decided that I was going to be better on this side of the table to keep them to task than trying to become one of them and be a liar. And that was my decision. I just figured I was more effective on this side of the table, pushing them to be at task rather than being one of them and having somebody poking at me and trying to keep me to task. Yeah. So that was when I changed my mind about being on the other side of the table. So
nothing will turn you off of politics more than getting involved in politics.
Absolutely.
The last election was a particularly harsh lesson for the marijuana community. Many people put all their eggs in Trudeau's basket, believing in his word and stuff. Myself, I kind of jumped ship when he wouldn't separate from Bill C-51 and that invasive terrorism bill, which is still in the books. And those same laws are going to be used, if not on environmentalists, possibly even on pot activists at some point.
Still hasn't backed away from that either. Like, that's another thing that, still, is looming in the back. The LC-51 hasn't been amended at all.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a big promise, and that was the clincher for me, that was just too fascist of something for me to be able to get behind, even with the promise of legalization. And so I went back over to the NDP, who I've generally voted for in the past. But, the NDP was lackluster as well. Mulcair had, like an 80s school teacher kind of view on cannabis. He was really out of the loop and lacked charisma. And so, obviously, we're in the position we're in because of that.
Yeah, that is. I mean, the lackluster, like you said, the angry school teacher. I looked at that too, and like I said, I've jumped ship. I actually cut my Liberal card in half last week and went, okay, I'm done. And it's not that it's not just the marijuana. There are a few other things. The
electoral voting, all sorts of things. The pipeline in the harbor here to the Vancouver. There's just so many a trail of broken promises by Justin Trudeau. Canada, Justin Trudeau is not your boyfriend.
I think many of us didn't really see it that well. I can't say as many. I think a lot of people saw him as our savior, as some new incumbent that's going to come up and change things immediately. And when he just started acting like any other politician, we all lost that lackluster for him. Because I think a lot of people really saw change, right?
Still better than Harper.
Dealing
with a lot different elements if Harper had gotten back in. So thank God that didn't happen, but very disappointing nonetheless.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm gonna ask you, where's your little store inside? And I was able to come and meet you in person when I was at Mum Cup in Vancouver, finally, and come into your little store in the Cannabis Culture headquarters. Were you affected by the raid?
Well, they shut down for a day, and they did go through my some of my storage and stock like that, but nothing too serious. The police were nice. They even actually, to me, seemed a little reluctant to be there. You know what I mean? It was like, Jesus, we're in Vancouver and, 2 blocks away, if not closer from where the raid was taking place. There's probably people dying of fentanyl in some alley. Like right outside the Vancouver police station is got to probably be the worst drug market, black market drug area in all of Canada. We're talking, like the Vancouver police station is 1 block from Main and Hastings, the famous corner of death, and in Canada, So these police in Vancouver, they know they've got better things to do. They're comfortable with cannabis culture. They barely even go in there. It was nothing local that had encouraged the raid. All the reasoning for it came from outside of the province. So I think for themselves, wasn't really the way that they would want to spend their time.
Well, no, even they said the article that came out the following day said they could have said no, and that there was money wasted, with Toronto police coming back and forth to Vancouver for weeks for an investigation. What a waste of taxpayers' dollars, like overtime and all this other garbage, flights and stuff back and forth. Like seriously, as a taxpayer, and I do pay taxes. We own this property. I have to pay property tax. That makes me so pissed off. I think seriously, there wasn't, like you said, a fentanyl death down the road. Toronto doesn't have a fentanyl problem. Like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Yeah. And that's my first question. And as a police officer, your moral obligation would be to go, help somebody overdosing and busting somebody smoking a joint.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And right now in Canada, the courts are backlogged so much that people accused of murder are not having to go to court and having the charges dropped because they've had to wait too long.
That's right.
And so what are we doing here? We're going to plug the court system up with more pointless cannabis cases months away from when the government is promising to legalize.
Well, look at Neil's case.
So, it's a total catastrophe.
Well, even look at the Crown in Vancouver, they're going after Neil Magnuson. Like, in reality, we all know that he didn't do anything wrong. I'm sure he didn't sell anything to any minors, whatever, because Neil's just not like that. But at a 420 event, it's almost a year since the event. He's had one first appearance, and now he goes to trial, and they're going to book 5 days for trial for 5 joints. Like, seriously? Like, what's wrong with the Crown? Like, how much money is he wasting?
Absolutely. And who knows what's going to happen at 420 this year? The city has refused permits for the new location in Stanley Park, where they wanted us to get out of the art gallery. And who knows what's going to happen, whether that'll take place. I can't see them stopping very successfully such a huge event, but hopefully there's no trouble.
Well, I phoned my city here because I want to do a 420 out here. There's never been one done here because every park in town has swings or a splash park. Our, City Hall has no lawn. So I attempted to, try and not get a permit so much, but say, like, is there a park in town where a few of us could gather to do this? And they said, no. We prefer that you do it in private property. Do you have somebody's yard you can use? Because even more, your park, where I was thinking, has soccer fields. Everything's like family, and those were her exact words. Well, every park in town's pretty family oriented, so couldn't you just do it, like, say, in your backyard or something? I went, okay. So I guess I'm going to do it in my backyard because I've got a huge yard and whatever. But it's just ridiculous, like, being where I am in BC. Yeah, I moved from Alberta.
Up to private charges, then you're responsible for it. The whole purpose of having events like that on
liability, right? Yeah, a liability risk kind of thing. So we're just going to have a private little gathering here in the house. Like, I'm not going to do anything. But Global Marijuana March is a different thing because I can go right to City Hall and march all over town if I want to. So maybe tomorrow we'll do that. We're not sure yet, but it's just kind of disheartening that this is 2017. It's not 2020 or 1920. It's 2017. We should be able to not have to hide our culture. not have to hide our medicine, not have to hide anything that we do. It's okay for somebody to go to the beach and drink a beer, but you can't sit on the beach and just smoke a joint. Like, it just seems so, and just so barbaric, really, to me.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So what do you? So you're planning on attending 420 and taking your booth out, I imagine, and spreading all the good education that you've got?
My store at these things, just because I don't want to mix up the plants that I'm doing with the whole big cannabis party, and it's not really the right place for it. It's really a cannabis celebration, so I just kind of let people focus on that. I'm sure I'll be checking it out, though. Maybe say a few words. I don't know. But it's a great event and a great day. But I've been doing these things for so long. It kind of is like, well, when is the actual legalization going to happen? I've always thought, it's just around the corner for so long now, and it's like, I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of the other plants and stuff that you actually offer, because kratom is something else that I'm very interested in hearing about, because with the heroin addiction and fentanyl problem that we have, kratom can be very beneficial to some of these people. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear the Hot Bronx again, New Movement, and we would like to thank my sponsors, who are, again, 12 High Chicks Magazine, Remo's Nutrients, Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partner Society, MUM, Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, and Haley Rose Foundation. We'll be right back. Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana.
Tune into the Pace Radio Show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stoll-Skiffin, or Allison Murden, along with myself, Al Grant, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at lifestyleradio.ca.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Hi, it's Deb from BMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal cannabis, we have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is, your success is our success.
This is Bubbles from the trailer park, and they're playing some fucking excellent music on lifestyleradio.ca. I hope I didn't sound too nervous there.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Must
I guess we are back. We were talking a little bit about other plant matter and stuff before the break, and I was asking Chris during the break about Kratom and all the other things that he does offer at his store in Vancouver. And Kratom is something that's been kind of a controversial anti-opioid, kind of different than the conventional pharmaceutical meds, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I've been selling Kratom for a long time, probably like 15 years. And in the last about 5 or so, it's just like really just been increasing in popularity. And a lot of the reason for that increase is its effectiveness in treating opioid problems and as a substitute for more powerful opioids and more dangerous opioids. And so a lot of people have been moving away from the harder drugs with Kratom and finding a very effective relief from it.
And there is a huge opiate problem in Vancouver. That's been ongoing for many years. So, like, I even remember when I was in high school, it was like, you don't want to end up on the east end of Vancouver, man. Like, stay away from the drugs. And that was 30 years ago. So, I mean, this has been ongoing in that area for many, 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 many years. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better. And with fentanyl and the carfentanil, it just, people are dropping like flies.
Absolutely.
Like,
you know, I know personally and have met people that have died from fentanyl here in Vancouver. That's how pervasive it is. That, you know, people, friends and acquaintances are being affected by it. And so it's visibly around, a visible problem. And to be honest with you, I think that people coming and getting Kratom from my shop are having a more effective time dealing with their issues than people on methadone, than people that are trying heroin maintenance, the safe injection sites, and straight up abstinence. And it's a really, I just see that their lives improving the more that they're accessing it.
Yeah, and it's so tough too, because like heroin's not like, it's not just like I'm going to turn it off today and be okay tomorrow. Like with, you know, cocaine, it's a 72-hour shakedown, right? Like it's not the same. It's a totally different withdrawal, and you can actually die from withdrawal of heroin addiction. And I don't think like, and it's the thing, like everything's mixed, right? Like I'm not saying people are going out and buying flaps of fentanyl. Like maybe they are, I don't know. But you know, it's really sad that when you hear about a family that, you know, mom and dad went out one night to, you know, have a few drinks and picked up a half gram, and their 4 kids wake up the next morning and mommy and daddy are dead.
Yeah,
and this happened in Calgary, right?
It's not even just heroin. People taking ecstasy have died because the ecstasy has been tainted with fentanyl.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, it's not just in the heroin. They're saying now it's in like everything but marijuana. Yeah. And I've got people that have asked me, like, is marijuana laced with fentanyl? And I have a hard time trying to figure out how the heck they would even get it into the plant, unless they were, you know, sprinkling, I guess, on top of. But I'm not sure. Like, I haven't done enough research about fentanyl, quite honestly.
You could do that, you know, like you could simply sprinkle it on. But, you know, it wouldn't be very cost effective. It wouldn't be like a cost motivation for you to do that, I don't think. You'd have to be just kind of a sinister type of individual that would pursue that method of smoking your cannabis.
Well, I know you argued with people many years ago, too, about cocaine being laced in bags of marijuana, too. And I said, you know, here's the thing. A bag of marijuana costs about $150, and an ounce of cocaine costs about, $3,000. Yeah. So, the difference between the economic basis for a drug dealer, it's not going to be, cost effective, so I can't see it happening. I mean, sure, people will, roll a joint and put some cocaine in their joint, but they're not going to throw an ounce of cocaine onto an ounce of marijuana. It's just not going to happen, right? And we have people here in town that believe that somebody has died from smoking too much pot, and I actually got into a huge argument and tried to explain that that's not possible, but they had it stuck in their head. It was laced with something, and this person had died. And there's so many of those people out there that still just aren't getting it.
Well, you even have the police and politicians making false claims about fentanyl, laced cannabis, or other laced forms of cannabis out there. It's always been a problem that the loose rumors and stuff like that. I believe Kirk Kusaw followed up such a claim by the police with a truth request and found out that the police had heard it on rumor from a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was going around Kamloops too. I think actually, didn't Christy Clark come out and say there was no fentanyl in the marijuana? Was it not her that actually
I think you're right about that. I can't say for sure, but I would call something.
Yeah. Yeah, because Kamloops had come out saying that there was fentanyl and they found fentanyl in cannabis, and I think it was the RCMP and Christy Clark that had come out and said no, that actually did not happen, and that's and that's kind of like good, I guess, in one aspect to have them come out and say no, there's absolutely not, but not promoting cannabis in any way stretch either, right? So I don't know. Like I said, it's a hard one when you have to actually sit back after so many years of watching this and wonder where the heck it's going next. Like, do you push the envelope? Do you open that dispensary door? Do you risk your all that, or do you just sit back and wait? And that's kind of where I've been for the last year, like on the fence. Like, do I just say fuck it and go ahead and book it and open that door and risk everything, or do I just sit back and quietly wait? And one side of me says fuck it, let's just go for this, and the other part of me says yeah, but you got that kid. So,
kids make a big difference,
right? And like I said, with Teresa,
more about kratom too. It's not just the opium. It's a wonderful medicine. There's kind of like the sativa and indica relationship with cannabis. There's different strains of kratom, and some are more for stimulating purposes, for energy, for getting up and studying or going to work or working out. And then there's other strains that are more relaxing, like the indicas. In cannabis, the red strains that are much better for opiate withdrawal and much more relaxing and clean, really deal with pain. And I believe that this plant will be kind of like a marijuana in the future in the sense that a lot of new pharmaceutical drugs will be developed from understanding how it works.
Absolutely. And where's kratom? It actually originates from where? Africa or South America?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
Kratom is originally from where? Is it Africa or South America?
South Asia. South Asia, Bali, Thailand, places like that.
Right. And here's the thing too over there, like the Philippines, right? Like they're killing everybody.
Yeah.
So when you hear that these actual like herbal medications and stuff come from over that part of the world, you kind of wonder, well, what the heck is going on over there too? Because you got that new Filipino dictator over there. Like anybody that's related to any drugs, he's just chopping heads off. Like how many people has he killed now?
Yeah, and getting the thumbs up for Trump for doing that too.
Yeah, like Jesus. Well, we won't even. I think we were both on the same opinion of that fellow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's another thing. Like I read somewhere yesterday that somebody had said that Canada has officially announced legalization to the UN, so that they are going to go about doing this. Whether we like the model that we're going to get is another thing. Now, do you feel that the US is going to try blocking that too, as well as
I don't think that the same dynamics are in play that were in play during the Bush and Chrétien era, and the America doesn't have quite as much control over Canada that it did back in those days. And the threats of trade sanctions and stuff like that would kind of not really be put out there. And the U.S. has already said that they're okay with Canada doing their own thing, as far as I know. But
now, isn't he trying to shut down his own states? Like, hasn't he come out saying that?
Absolutely, I was going to just get into that. The federal government, though, has made it perfectly clear: medical marijuana, that they'll recognize the state's rights on, but legalization is a federal crime. And so, any state that has legal marijuana in there, anybody working in that industry right now, anybody invested in it, is at threat by federal law. Any one of them could be charged under existing federal laws. Whether it will be enforced or not, maybe not, or maybe they'll just do a little bit of picking away. Right after Trump's election, the private prison industry soared. The stock of private prison, and that was largely due to the forecasts of immigration prisoners. Foreigners who will be stuck in private prisons while they await deportation or whatever charges they face. And that caused 100% rise in stocks. And then when they said that they were going to not recognize states that legalized cannabis, there was another huge spike in private prison stocks. And everywhere, any state that is legalized, one of the biggest opponents to that legalization, and where a lot of the funding has come from that legalization, has come from the private prison industry, who see marijuana people as a potential source of income a resource to be harvested for their own benefit. And also money's come from largely from Oxycontin, pharmaceutical companies, and probably fentanyl producers as well, who have donated tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, to efforts to keep cannabis prohibited in states that have legalization initiatives taking place. And this is because they feel the direct impact of legalization on their own profits as their Oxycontin and other harmful drugs are not being bought, and people start going to dispensaries and buying this natural herb.
Yeah, I think that's what they're scared of. And I think that's the kind of the backlash we're getting here with the licensed producers, too, is that they feel that, they're going to be there and they're going to lose or miss out on something. I mean, like I said before, there's room for everybody in hindsight. But, I looked at the list and it's gone from 35 licensed producers now to 40. So they've, again, licensed 5 more. I don't know how many they figure they're going to need in total to be able to actually provide enough cannabis for the country. But, then you've got lawsuits and you've got recalls and you've got other stuff going on. It just, like I said, it just seems to be that whatever model they had originally planned isn't going to plan, and I don't think that we're willing to lie down and let them do this to us. I think there's enough of us out there that really feel that the small business, craft cannabis, these small growers all deserve to have small business. And I mean, and that's the thing, like, it's a small business. It's not like nobody's paying GST. Nobody's paying, the employees CPP and unemployment. Everything's going to the government. Like Mark had said, he has paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to the government for HST and GST. They happily take it. They said, we don't care what you're doing, illegal or not illegal. You have to pay the government. Like, that to me is, again, like, shake my head. Like, okay, it's okay for us to sell as long as we're paying our taxes, but we'll still come and arrest you. But we still want your tax money anyway.
Well, that's what got a lot of these big gangsters back in the day when alcohol prohibition ended, was they hadn't been paying taxes. So, that's a whole, that's a pretty serious area of law as well. So you probably want to come up with some way of paying taxes if you're at all involved.
Well, I do see a charter challenge in the future, quite frankly. I don't know where anybody's going to kind of come up with that kind of cash again, because it, costs the patients almost $1 million, if not more, to get our rights for the Allard ruling to, for be able to sustain our gardens as it is. And that, again, now that the government's dragging their feet, is a 4-month wait to get your paperwork back. So basically you get one crop off, you have to reapply, and it's just, again, the same bullshit it was before, because we've got our paperwork into Health Canada. I phoned last week and said, oh, it's processed, expected back in three months. I'm like, you've already had it for a month. So I mean, again, patients are left, and I can't even get to a licensed producer, quite frankly. A lot of them aren't taking new patients. They're not taking new registration to be able to kind of keep the patients that they've got in product. So I'm and then you hear the recalls. So I kind of gauged through them and went, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I just don't. And so here I sit, having to, do what I do. It's none of, how I get my medicine really is nobody's business. And that's what we do. Right. And I think there's many, many thousands of us that are in the same boat, whether we've got paperwork into Health Canada or not. We're still doing what we have to do to make sure we have medicine. Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to thank you very much, Chris, for being on my show. I really appreciate you coming on. We've had, some bad stuff going on in the last 2 weeks, and hopefully that doesn't, continue, but I don't see it getting any better before it gets worse, or worse before it gets better, I mean. And that's the unfortunate thing about, law enforcement, and I guess there was raids in Ottawa yesterday again, and New Brunswick, and and again today they're, seemingly going to be out there. So I hope everybody stays safe, and I commend everybody that's out there on the front lines, running, working, bud tending, owning a dispensary, educating your neighbor, talking to your government officials, just anything that you can do within your means, try and do it. Like, that's all we can ask in your own location. You don't have to be, screaming on street corners every day, but once in a while would be good. And I guess 420 is coming up soon, so that's something everybody else is on the plan to do, which is April 20th, which is a Thursday. It's a month away now, I guess. And we'll see everybody next week. I'm going to try and get Teresa Taylor back on the show because, again, she was raided up in Grand Forks and all her stuff taken away by the RCMP. So we're going to do a follow-up show with her next week. So, again, thanks, Chris, for coming on. And you guys all have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, take care. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris. We'll talk to you soon.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
When I awake, my clock says 4:20.